Hi, everyone. Welcome to this South Node and Libra discussion. Where Libra is in your chart is where you can discover karmic rewards, specifically financially, relationship wise, status wise. And this is based off of the lessons and the things that you have mastered in a past life. Basically, what we all have been mastering over the past few years when it comes to Libra. So, Libra in your chart is where we discover beauty, we discover abundance of beauty. But quite often, the way that people have handled beauty has been through a quite unjust way. This is based off of the ideas of pretty privilege and things like that. Now, what I want to share with you is not the focus on the injustices during this transit, but to focus on the true detachment and sophistication that Libra brings and tests you with the South Node here. Through that test and passing that test, one can find themselves in incredible abundance and karmic rewards, because the South Node is deeply connected to karma and how it is that we receive those rewards, and the language of which it is interpreting itself is through Libra. Therefore, how well did we receive our karmic rewards? Through our relationships. Now, Libra being ruled by Venus is a planet of love. It definitely considers both self-love and love of another. The ability to love another person also generates how well you love yourself. And to some degree, we all face some sort of lack of love. Usually we will discover this through the people that we have confrontations about. And all of us have a different narrative of this lack of love that we are being tested on and how it is that we actually handle it. On the contrary, while many people think that Libra is about facing injustice, while it very much so is generated around that idea, Libra is far from being the punisher or the judgment of that injustice. Libra is more about the lawyers or the mediator, the person who actually has to bring the case to the floor, or the person who actually gets to speak for their defendant, or for, the person who is the victim. So Libra is always connected to the balance, and therefore is a way more peaceful air energy than probably the other air energies. Libra is recognizing its space amongst its ability to communicate the injustices without punishment, because punishment is actually far from balanced. Okay, so the idea of Libra, and this is why beauty is what it is. Beauty is something that is based off of balance. It's based off of symmetry. So when we show the ugly sides to us, it's not just manifested physically ugly. It's coming from a spiritual take on our lives, on our lack of love. When somebody is, really getting into ugly fights and spats with people, that is ugly. I said ugly fights. That has an ugliness to it. And this is what Libra is trying to find the balance. It's trying to bring back symmetry. Therefore, it's not to say that we should avoid ugliness, because we need to. In fact, Libra kind of embraces ugliness and decides how it is that it should be understood and be treated by people. This is why Libra is about injustice and fairness. Okay, so in your chart, we're going to go through in your chart where Libra is during the South Node position based off of the house positions. And I want you to think about injustices being directed towards that part of your chart, because that will be the very challenge that occurs for you. And through the challenge, you will understand how the karmic reward will come to you, because you will be challenged to separate from the need to fight for that injustice. Libra is not the fighter. Aries is the fighter. Libra is merely the lawyer, again, the mediator. So in your chart, where Libra is, you're discovering that the path of injustice is far from being the punisher. The punishers are ugly, but the Libra scales maintain beauty and symmetry by not choosing to go too extreme, to punishment. And also Libra is connected to the word pardon, and it's connected to grace. These are words that are deeply essential, and it's not necessarily only to the things that we find beautiful. That's the injustice of Libra in itself. That, somebody who is only seen as beautiful or who everyone favors is the one that gets defended by, right? No, on the contrary, even when you look at the position of a lawyer, the lawyers, specifically the ones who stand up for the perpetrators, the criminals, they're the ones who actually are exercising the most pardon and grace for the most part. That might be an opinion. But my point here is that one has to have some sort of understanding of how grace and pardon is actually for the person that you would want to give it the least to. That's the symmetry that is actually happening here with Libra. And so it's far from an easy path. And this is why Libra actually thrives with Saturn. Saturn being probably the true punisher, Mars being a selfish punisher. Those two planets do very specific things in Libra. Mars is not happy in Libra because it can't take out its own selfish punishment. And Saturn actually being the true punisher of Libra is also based off of karma, because it's all about how it is that we handle the negativity and the things that are coming out of us and coming towards us. So this is why Saturn is actually very good in Libra. It's very calculated, committed, and devoted to seeking the truth of the symmetry, to seeking the truth of if punishment is to happen, how will it be so? Okay. Now, we won't have a Saturn in Libra transit when it comes to the South Node position. But the South Node is acting like Saturn without the punishment. So that's a way of me describing it to you so that you would understand it from that arena. It's acting like Saturn without punishment. Therefore, how one handles injustice is the key. So let's talk about how you would handle injustice based off of my knowledge. And of course, my knowledge is only a piece of the puzzle, but I want to bring to you that knowledge based off of manifestation, because my work specifically is about astrology and manifestation, okay? And I'm trying to help y'all get to the bag, all right? That's one of the main reasons I would even post something, is to help you get to your own bag, and help myself, of course. And we do this by a frequency adjustment, okay? So when you understand that you have been injusticed by, one of the biggest things you will have to fight is your own need and your own will to want to persecute. And instead of choosing persecution, one has to find the grace for themselves and for another person. And that's what's difficult. Because when somebody's like, well, this person deserves to be punished, this person deserves to be persecuted, that might feel really true, mainly because you haven't given yourself the grace and the pardon to actually detach from that. What do I mean? To be in the energy of wanting somebody else to be persecuted also poisons you at the same time. It creates this vibrant frequency that is feeling less than, feeling victimized, and feeling the lack. Okay. And so again, my word isn't the only word. My piece isn't the only truth, but it does bring to the table how one handles difficult situations in life. Some of the biggest injustices that I felt even as a child, I never got to see the persecution of that other person. But I had to learn to trust in the universe that everything would balance out. And this took me years to detach from the need to persecute somebody else, but it very much so saved me, because then it allowed me to stop focusing on them and start focusing on the healing that I needed due to the aftermath of that, of the traumatic event. And also, what is it within me that it keeps pulling those types of events towards me. So Libra has a lot of responsibility to it. A lot of people who don't want to commit to things struggle with Libra in their chart, okay? Because one of the biggest things you learn with Libra is learning to commit to yourself, your own self-grace, and your own self-pardon. And grace is not, people confuse grace as being something, well, I'm going to be feeling better now that that person got punished. But grace doesn't last very long that way. It might feel like a quick, it may feel like a quick fix, right? But the true grace is the love that was lacking within you, that attracted those things towards you in the first place. Libra, being ruled by Venus, is about attraction. So one is looking at how it is that they have attracted certain things towards them. Also, what are the things in life that you are triggered by? That's another question that I ask you. All of these things are in my worksheets, by the way, so that you can actually do this work in your own time. But I'm just covering the basis of it. What are the things that you are feeling deeply hurt by, deeply injustice by? Even if you get your persecution and your punishment, that feeling of being injustice by does not go away until you turn the grace towards yourself and start doing the work internally on what it is that you are attracting towards you, because there is always a negative polarity. And Libra, one takes self-responsibility and recognize that. This is why the Libras of the world, the ones who really got it, they're classy, they're graceful, they are deeply, and it's not surface level when they really got it. It's from this deep internal work that they have done for themselves. They have turned the love on themselves. Therefore, they don't have to point fingers at the injustices at life as much. And people confuse that because they think that Libra is pointing the fingers at injustice. No, Libra is not pointing the fingers at injustice. Libra is the lawyer. Libra is the one standing for the person that seems to be having the injustice towards them. So, a lot of that is about learning how to be your own lawyer to yourself. And this can be a process of self-soothing that you have never experienced before when you really do that work. And it took me a long time to learn how to do this. But becoming the lawyer for yourself is going to be a game changer, okay? So going through the houses, where Libra is in your chart is where you're being a lawyer for yourself, where you're learning how to detach from the injustices towards you in order to practice that sense of pardon and grace for yourself, and probably for the person who is directing their injustices towards you. Therefore, this energy is one that requires duality and seeing the bigger picture, because Libra is getting ready to go towards the bigger picture as it evolves into Scorpio and Sagittarius. So one is getting ready to practice that type of vision for themselves. So I want you to listen to the house placements, and also, if you want, grab the worksheets so that you can really do this work over and over again. And this South Node in Libra transit is also going to be happening during a Venus RX. So it's happening during a Venus retrograde, which requires even more retrospection into self. Okay, so let's go through the houses. Libra in the first house is going to be connected to the injustices towards yourself directly. It could be personal, it could be something that is one-on-one, but it could also feel like it's the public or the majority of the public. Some of the things you'll have to do is to work through your grace and pardon and resistance towards grace and pardon towards the injustices towards you. This work is going to be also something that can face humiliation. So it's important for you to see that there's none there. As you being your own lawyer, you're helping yourself to coax yourself into focusing on the people who do support you, the people who do understand you. And so the less impersonal that you take it, the better that this energy will karmically reward you. In the second house, it will be injustices towards your value or your income. You may feel like people don't really value you. You may feel fake phoniness around the value of what you have to offer. And there could be a lot of superficiality towards those things too. How polished are your possessions and resources, or things like that. So the key here is to act grace towards the things that you have, to be more pardoning towards what is yours and what you own. That will also help you to not take it into the space of punishment towards the people who may seem to devalue you. It may feel really good to want to take it out on them or devalue them, but at the same time, it's only an act against self because Libra is the mirror. Therefore, it may even serve you once you've really done the work on your own things to value the things that the other people do have to offer and to see it even though they can't see it. And that will bring you that karmic reward through the South Node transit. In the third house, Libra is working on its sophisticated communication and understanding. Therefore, there could be people who may penalize you or persecute you or come after you in an unjust way against the way that you understand things. Maybe your path of comprehension, or it could be how slow or quickly you respond to things. These are things that can kind of throw you into a confused loop when you're dealing at this level because the third house is connected to the lower mind. So it's a lot of air energy. This is going to require you also being able to have grace towards yourself and your own mentality. And this may not mean like you don't see the greatness in what you have to say, but you just have to understand why you have to say what you have to say. What is the purpose in that communication that means the most to you? That gives you the self-love and the growth and the grace for yourself in the fact that people may not understand you. Some people may not understand you, and there may be conflict over that. So the karmic reward is in the understanding of self and the story towards your communication. Why is it that you have to say what is that you have to say? There's also a need to know that everyone won't understand you, and that's okay. Because your truth may not be, it's all equal truth, but people may not understand that truth. And there will be very distinct people who do, right? And the more that you're more graceful towards your own way of speaking, the more that others will be too. And that will be your karmic reward. The fourth house is really interesting. It's connected to the means of why injustice and pardon and grace is there. The love of the mother, the comfort of mother. To recognize the grace of Libra and the existence without Libran energy in the entire existence of the seasons and zodiac. This could be connected to literal, the act of grace by the mother or towards the mother. It can also be that towards the family. There may feel like there's injustices in the family that one has to overcome. And this may mean that you're learning how to pardon your loyalty or your role in the family. Maybe you don't like your role. Maybe there's something that feels unjust about where you fit amongst the clan. So this will be about recognizing the order of things, the importance of grace, because with family, it can actually be the hardest to get angry at. And so the expression of like that injustice and punishment can sometimes be there, but more than likely you're fighting with your actual love of the family because they are all that you got versus the internalized feeling that there's an injustice. If somebody gets punished, everybody kind of gets punished in the fourth house. So you're fighting that separation pain that happens between you and the family with Libra here and injustice. So the work will be in the grace and understanding why you play that role. If you want to get out of that role, what would be the way to lawyer yourself out of the roles that you play in the family? And it's deeply connected to the importance of Libra being a part of the journey, because Libra satisfies that loyalty, and we learn loyalty first from family. So when it comes to loyalty to anything, another person, or our endeavors, whatever like that, loyalty requires recognizing that somebody has to be pardoned, because nobody's perfect and we're always going to make mistakes. So how does one actually learn how to love through the mistakes and not be angry? Like, this is just so hard to feel that injustice towards a family member unless they've done something real brutal, and in some cases, some cases that must have been a sign from the train. In some cases, it very much so may have been brutal. So it might be easy to take injustices out. But usually we're learning that glue feeling that we feel towards people in the fourth house. And so Libra and the need to be graceful towards our family is presented as a gift because it kind of tells you the route and which ones should take. It doesn't mean that you always have to tolerate or be around people, but it's about the act of love and why the act of love and how the act of love actually is taking place here in the fourth house. And in embracing that very deep lesson, your karmic rewards will show itself. In the fifth house, Libra is dealing with relationships that don't have as much longevity, but they can be still very much so important and devoted in the time being. There can be some certain injustices in the way that you relate to people, the way that you commit to people, or your focus from one person to another being diverted. But the grace here is that your diversion from one focus to another is grace. It is grace because in the art of manifestation and in astrology, if you focus too hard on something that is really, really not good, first of all, you're not focused enough on yourself and everything's really evolved around you. So it's like the sun focusing too hard on another planet. You know what I'm saying? So the grace is that you need to divert your attention because you're really just diverting your attention all the way back into your own light eventually. Certain injustices can come around the way that you express yourself, the way that you evolve your life around yourself. And while it can seem like it actually does not have as much injustice to it, you know, because it's such a sun energy. It's your youthful creative expression. But so many people are hurt by that. So I think in the grace and the pardon is to recognize that a lot of people have trauma around their own self-care, around their own interests, around their own talents. A lot of people have been suppressed by certain things like that. And so depending on what end of the spectrum you are at, you may deal with the vice versa of that. For example, somebody who is not able to express themselves and feels unjust by that may be surrounded by a lot of people who can, and it's so difficult. And then the other spectrum would be somebody who expresses themselves and has all of the spark, but is surrounded by a lot of people who are mean and jealous, maybe, and have a lot of injustice, feel injustice towards you because you can freely express your light and they can't. So the grace and the pardon again comes through understanding. Libra is the sophisticated understanding, as Gemini is the logical understanding to get it. Libra has got it and is sophisticatedly understanding it. Therefore, in the fifth house, you're deeply understanding why people are jealous, why people get that way, why do they do it towards you. And when you understand that deeply, you can't dim your light. It only shines brighter because you're shining for them and they get more of that spark from you. So this is a place where it's about romance and childhood and talents, but a lot of it is your ability, is your what you put your attention to is really focused here on what grows. And what you really want to aim for through the act of self-love is to grow your light. And your light won't outshine other people. It might burn them because they are incapable of giving as much light. But if it burns them, then that's the point of the injustice, is for the injustice to actually be pardoned, right? So you burn somebody and you pardon them. It may think that they have to pardon you, but that's not the case here. It's more that you are so bright that you pardon them for the fact that you are going to burn them. So it feels very selfish, and it almost feels a little backwards in how I'm describing it because I don't really have the best visual to present to you. But the key is in understanding that because you are so light, there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to be hurt by. You know, there's nothing to really be hurt by. It's really you that does the hurting when you're that bright, when you're that light within your beauty. Okay, so the seventh house, I'm sorry, the sixth house. The sixth house is Libra, sixth house. This is injustice towards your act of service and work. This is a place that can feel, one can have a spectrum too of being on the side of work where they work really, really hard for people and they hate it, or on the side of work where they love what they do and nobody else gets them for that. And so they're constantly judged and injusticed by that. So we're getting ready to go into the seventh house. So the sixth house, in its understanding of justice, one is displayed by positions in life where they have to serve other people. And how do they feel about that? Because the act of service itself is one that's more of power than of it's one more of power than of victimization. And I have so much information on the sixth house, very specifically. I have worksheets on that if you want to check the Etsy. Because when you talk about the story of Job in the Bible in the sixth house, you're looking at the suffering of work. And so when somebody suffers in their work, they don't feel like their work is recognized or good enough, right? They feel deeply injustice by, because service feels like a lower class position from that angle. But when you're somebody who really loves what you do, then service is very powerful. It's able to gain clients, employees. It's able to grow an entire business. It's able to create new business in the world. It's able, like, service just goes on another level when you combine Libra and the sixth house, or Libra and Virgo, because Virgo is the natural ruler of the sixth house. So Libra in the sixth house and the South Node moving here is really helping one to identify the injustices of that feeling of service, the feeling of not being able to feel good about your service, and what is that and where does that come from. It's a deep investigation of self and the self in the world and the functions and systems and societies of the world. It gets even more advanced as we move through the different house systems, but it starts here in the sixth house, because this is the last house before we really get to the public view, which is the seventh to the 12th house. So one is really looking to identify that injustice in the feeling of serving, and from there the karmic rewards will start to take place. The South Node in the seventh house is, especially the South Node here, transiting. This is someone who has to look at why they are the common denominator in all their relationships. This is the natural placement of exercising your relationships are your mirror, because from that you have a lot more masterfulness, because one recognizes differences and the injustices and the indifferences, but struggles with that because they don't see the similarities. It's through the similarities that grace and pardon will really start to happen here in the seventh house. Now, this is Libra's natural placement, so this is going to be where you lawyer well for yourself and you practice and exercising lawyering for yourself within the relationship. But that's also going to mean, like if you have like a situation where somebody's in divorce court and somebody chooses to be their own lawyer for themselves, you've got to know all the bells and whistles to what lawyering is. And it's very different than just being on the other side and feeling injustice by the other person. You actually have to be two people. You have to be the person in the relationship and the person who can see outside of the relationship. That's a very, very interesting thing to do, because you kind of do have to split yourself even though you're as one here. But that's the whole point of the seventh house. And that's the idea of Libra, is that the split is really the one. And so you are your partner. You are the partners that you keep. This is the house that really brings karmic reward through devotion on any level. So it can be through a relationship, but it can also be through a project. Or like if you're very ambitious and you want to have a fulfilling career, like it requires devotion and commitment to that career. So people who are really in longevity with their careers, they usually are also very well in longevity with their relationships, because the act is, when it's balanced, it's basically expressing itself across the board in its wholeness. So it sees everyone as itself, and when you operate from that place, you can also become very altruistic. So you're a lawyer who's really so going back to the divorce court, you become the lawyer who's defending your partner and yourself. That's how you're split. And that's some weird shit. This could be the place where one does choose to leave the relationship, but by a graceful way, or they see that they are the reason that the relationship is not working. And so that is now going to depend on how much do you want the relationship? How much are you more devoted to the idea of being a loyal person? It's the difficult place because it's the place of marriage. So marriage is it with another person, but it's also what are you married to in your virtues and values, right? Because Libra is bringing the values from Taurus and making it more public, more with another person, more with other people. So your values and virtues show what it is that you're married to. The things that you value, need in life are the things that you're married to. And so that's what you're already married when you get into a marriage with someone else. So you're also learning what is that person married to, and why this marriage is actually a threesome. It's a joint process because it's me, it's you, and it's the us. And so it's actually a three. So there's a lot here that manifests in the world in the negative output, but true marriage can actually be quite exciting, have lots of longevity, have lots of greatness because the person really understands like what this marriage and devotion and looking in the mirror thing is about. So the karmic reward is the highest beauty of expression with Libra. And so we can actually find that the answer of our highest beauty to a degree is based off of, are you able to defend yourself and another? Okay, let's go into the 8th house now. Okay, so Libra in the 8th house, we're looking at the dynamic of intimacy, deep, incredible intimacy on a superficial level. So it's by beauty and prettiness and balance that intimacy happens. But the injustice would be that one is lacking intimacy, lacking beauty, lacking balance in life due to the lack of the grace and pardon. Because grace and pardon is matured in the 8th house. It's actually desiring to merge together, even though I see all of you. I see this is what sex really is. Sex is beauty and ugliness, and accepting and wanting to merge with both. And it's a really trippy thing because Libra is so superficial in the sense that it's looking at the basic issues. So it can be very petty. The issues can be very petty. But the ultimate truth is that there is so much more intimacy that can happen here. And through the act of pardon and grace, intimacy will find its way. And from that place, one is really able to merge with the other. And when you merge with another in that way, it does create this idea that sex is love. You know, we do have Venus in that house of sex. So there's an act of love because I accept you, you know. And so that is the karmic reward, acceptance, full, deep, honest acceptance of one's great and bad things. People want to have sex with you because you're so pretty, right? But it's all coming from the act of grace that and pardon that you have developed in that intimate relationship, in understanding each other's not so great things and great things, and wanting and desiring all of it. And that's the karmic reward here as well. So moving into the 9th house, the karmic reward, I'll tell you off bat, because the 9th house is, you know, Sagittarian ruled, even though you have Libra here, and it's very blunt, you know, it wants to be seen as the most exquisite goddess, you know, and so it's finding its place through spirituality, the spirit of the goddess. And so this is someone who acts almost from a place of perfection, ideals, perfect ideals that one can never crack and see the real ugliness. There's almost like a perfect spiritual spirit, a perfect guru, right? So this can be an injustice that could be great, but usually is coming from the injustice of a cult-like idea that only one person could have all the answers, that only one person could be the one that everyone follows and spiritually is led by. Usually there's some sort of deep indulgence that is happening here that many can't see because it might be laced under spirituality. So the injustice is learning how to have grace towards biased, very powerful biases, very ones that you feel like you can't break, very powerful beliefs that have set people apart. I mean, I feel like pretty privilege comes here as an opinion. So as your astrologer, I can't say it for sure, but I use it as the example in here because pretty privilege is about the belief, an internalized belief of something being pretty. And it's coming from the person who doesn't feel that way. It's not coming from the people who are acting on it. It's coming from the person who feels that way. So, like, literally, Libra in the ninth house could be the healers of pretty privilege because they're the ones who are not seen as pretty. And they might, and depending on where it is in life, pretty privilege shows up. It's not just in one way that we know it, like with at least from my culture, we know it as in skin color. Pretty privilege shows up beyond just skin color. It shows up in various ways in different cultures. So we all may have felt like the more ugly one who doesn't get privilege to some degree here in the ninth house, and finding that injustice to be something where you want to get back with a lot of fire, with a lot of spit fire words. You want to have a lot of power over the beliefs of people in order to gain the validation that you're looking for. And it's actually taking no, sorry y'all. So it's the perfect, yep. Okay, so we're looking at ninth house Libra. The belief here is needing to change within you. So we can literally create a system of getting rid of pretty privilege. Okay, so the beliefs of pretty privilege. Nine. So one is creating a system of, if one could create a system of healing from pretty privilege, one would have to look deeply at the beliefs that have been internalized in oneself. Okay, because like I said, the ninth house in Libra, karmically with the South Node, is searching for spirit beauty, the beauty of spirit, and then let everything else manifest as it may, as it may. But in the spirit and the beauty of spirit, one has to pardon the people who they feel have exhibited the hierarchy of prettiness over them, whether it's the people that feel that they're prettier than them or the people who just like those prettier people. So basically you're pardoning and giving grace to the people who you feel are giving you that injustice. And from that place, you actually create a philosophy and a whole belief system. You become your own guru through that art and act, because it's quite a journey. It's going to be a testimony because it's about looking at your internalized beliefs around yourself and how you fit in and what everyone believes. Because in order for you to suffer from pretty privilege, you must also believe in the systematic belief of what is pretty. Therefore, you have internalized it. So when you break through that, that's not BB. Nah, we're gonna leave in 15 minutes. No, we didn't. No, because I've been recording for 30 minutes. So we've been here for at least 45 minutes. So through the karmic reward, you will experience the elevation of your spirit and a new belief system, a new system of beliefs of yourself that you can now empower for yourself. And if others want to adhere to it and use it for their own belief system, then they can as well. And it's quite enjoyable that from that place. In the 10th house, you have Venus and Libra and the South Node moving through this energy, trying to let go of the old materials, the things that have been solidified in life, the businesses that support and maintain a system that has injustice to it in its entirety. So I mean, one example could be the prison system. One example could be that, in which somebody is looking at, well, why is it that these people have been the most imprisoned in life, the business of prison, the things like that, and trying to not fight the injustices on a surface level, but looking deeply at the business of the injustice and basically changing the foundations, changing the laws, the rules, the things that have built that system to be. So the system itself doesn't have to be completely annihilated, but there needs to be a mediation, maybe even a name change, a title change, because of the position of the 10th house is connected to the title that you get in a career or something like that. So it becomes close to official changes that seem political but are deeply rooted in a systematic change. And that's the karmic reward. In the 11th house, you have Libra working really diligently to balance out the hierarchical systems of financial financial division and financial distribution. So one is looking to feel like they are at a lower class and needing to look at why they are and from what of their own associations and alliances that have kept them in a certain class. So the injustice of the alliances and the class system of where you are, and this does not have to just be financial as well, are trying to find a new ground. And so it may feel like you need to look at history, what worked before, what didn't work before, as to why the position is unjust. But it's really more about pardoning history and progressively looking at new innovative ways to beautify and create where you actually are at in that very specific place and moment. So, and then adding technology that easily advances from where you're actually presently at in the system and helping you get better. And so it's moving forward together as a unit. That is the karmic reward. In the 12th house, we're looking at the injustices towards, this also too is history, and in history itself, what has gone wrong, overcoming the entirety, the wholeness of one's journey, and looking at your past in a way that, like, really asking yourself, do you see the past mainly for the bad things that happened or for the things that you were able to overcome? Do you relate to your past from a nostalgic way, or is nostalgia not existent from your past? These will be the telling signs of where you have held on to a lot of injustice overall. And it may require, meditation, isolation, work in connecting to the past in a way that's more beautiful. This is also where painting and things like that, they become very therapeutic. It's a way of rewriting the past, or showing that even if you have a relationship to the past that is injustice, that something beautiful can come of it. So that also could be the artist, the poet that comes out of the 12th house, that is very sophisticated, very wise as to how they can treat themselves after never really being able to see how to free themselves before. So that's why the past had its constant cycle of injustice and never really seeing light. And so when the person finally just changes, right, it's like taking everything that they've learned and the shift happening. This is where the shift really happens. And it seems like it should be something that happens early, like in the first house or whatever, but the entire shift out of injustice itself is happening here. The complete release and freeing of the imprisonment of injustice all across the board happens here. And one is deeply and impactful to other people in such a beautiful way because they're able to artistically tell that story. And so that becomes also very much the karmic reward. So that is Libra through the houses in my message of the South Node, bringing karmic rewards and how to be the lawyer for yourself in each position. Peace and love.